What would you choose? Love or success? In a world where power often wins over the heart, one man dares to defy everything for the woman he loves. This is the story of Quang, a man who refuses to sell his soul for wealth, and Linda, the daughter of a powerful CEO caught between family and feeling. Their journey is not about money. It's about courage, sacrifice, and staying true to the heart, heartbreak, and sparkles. Subscribe now to follow their emotional story, where every choice has a price and every love demands strength. The evening sun slanted through the tall glass windows of the small cafe, spilling golden light over the wooden table where Quang and Linda sat in silence. The hum of the city faded outside, replaced by the soft rhythm of the rain beginning to fall. Linda's fingers trembled slightly as she traced the rim of her coffee cup, her eyes distant and filled with unspoken pain. The weight of her father's ultimatum hung between them like an invisible wall, an offer that could change everything. If Quang agreed to marry into the CEO's family, wealth and power would be within his grasp. But if he refused, he would lose the stability he had fought so hard to build. "Quang," Linda finally whispered, her voice breaking the quiet, "maybe you should think about it. You've worked so hard for years. I don't want to be the reason you give up your future." Her words were fragile, like glass about to shatter. Quang turned to her, his gaze steady, filled with the kind of calm that came from deep conviction. He reached out, gently taking her cold hands into his warm palms. "Linda," he said softly, yet every word carried weight. "You are my future. I won't trade our love for anything. Not money, not position, not power. I'd rather lose everything than lose who I am." Tears welled up in Linda's eyes. She wanted to speak, but the lump in her throat silenced her. Quang smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I've been poor before, and I'm not afraid to start again. What matters to me is that you're here, and that my mother doesn't have to worry anymore. That's enough for me to keep going." His voice, though calm, trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the raw honesty of his heart. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, and the first drops of rain began to tap gently on the glass. Linda leaned closer, resting her forehead against his shoulder. "You're too stubborn," she murmured through her tears. "Maybe," Quang replied with a quiet laugh, "but I'd rather be stubborn for love than clever for greed." For a long moment, they sat there, holding on to each other as the world outside blurred into streaks of silver rain. The cafe's dim light reflected in Linda's eyes, turning her sadness into something softer, hope. Quang tightened his embrace, as if making a silent promise to shield her from everything that might come. In that small, rain-swept cafe, among the scent of coffee and quiet determination, two hearts found strength, not in comfort or fortune, but in the unshakable truth that love, when it's real, asks for courage, not compromise. The next morning arrived cloaked in gray clouds and the faint chill of dawn. Quang stood before the towering glass building that bore the CEO's name, a symbol of power, ambition, and everything he had chosen to walk away from. His reflection in the doors looked different today, calmer, stronger, as if the decision he made the night before had stripped away all fear. The receptionist greeted him politely, and he gave a small nod before stepping into the elevator. Each floor he ascended felt heavier, the silence pressing down on him like a test of resolve. By the time the door slid open to the top floor, Quang's heartbeat had steadied. He was ready. Inside, the CEO sat behind a mahogany desk, flipping through documents with his usual air of authority. His sharp eyes lifted the moment Quang entered. "You've come," the older man said coolly, closing the file. "I assume you've made your decision." His voice carried no warmth, only the expectation of obedience. Quang bowed respectfully before meeting his gaze. "Yes, sir, I have." A pause hung in the air, tense and fragile. "And?" the CEO prompted, leaning back in his chair, waiting to hear the answer he believed was inevitable. Quang drew a breath, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. "Sir," he began, his voice firm but respectful, "I'm grateful for your offer, truly, but I cannot accept it. I won't become your son-in-law just to climb higher. I won't trade my integrity for comfort." The CEO's brows furrowed slightly, surprise flickering across his composed face. "Do you understand what you're saying, Quang? You're refusing a future most men would beg for." "I understand, but I'd rather earn my place than be given it. I want to work for what I have, even if it means starting from the lowest position in your company. Let me prove my worth through effort, not through marriage." His voice didn't shake. It was clear and unwavering. For a long moment, the CEO said nothing. The ticking of the clock filled the room. Then unexpectedly, a faint smile curved on the older man's lips, not of amusement, but of recognition. "You have your mother's stubbornness," he murmured. "Very well, Quang. I'll accept your request. You'll start as a junior staff member, no special treatment, no favors." Quang bowed deeply, relief washing over him. "Thank you, sir. That's all I ask." As he turned to leave, the CEO's voice stopped him one last time. "One more thing," he said quietly. "Take care of Linda. She'll need someone who values her more than I ever did." Quang froze for a heartbeat, then nodded silently and walked out, his steps lighter than when he came in. Outside, the sky had begun to clear, sunlight breaking through the clouds. For the first time in a long while, Quang felt the warmth of hope touching his skin. He had chosen love over power, and in doing so, he had found something far greater, the strength to rebuild his life on his own terms. When Quang stepped out of the building, the sunlight felt different, sharper, warmer, almost like a quiet blessing. The air carried a faint trace of rain from the night before, mingling with the scent of new beginnings. He paused on the sidewalk, taking a deep breath, watching the morning rush unfold around him. People hurried past, some chasing wealth, some chasing dreams, and for the first time in years, he felt no pressure to chase anything at all. He had made his choice. He had kept his heart intact. That to him was worth more than any title or luxury car parked in the CEO's private garage. As he walked down the street, Quang's phone buzzed. A message from Linda. "Are you okay?" He smiled faintly, imagining her anxious face as she waited for his answer. His fingers moved quickly over the screen. "I'm fine. I told your father everything. He accepted. I'll start as a regular employee next week." There was a pause before her reply came. "You really did it," followed by a small heart emoji. Quang's smile deepened. For the first time in a long while, the future didn't scare him. It inspired him. That evening, he returned home to find his mother sitting on the porch, tending to her small garden. She looked up as he approached, her tired eyes softening with quiet pride. "You look different," she said, handing him a cup of warm tea. "Lighter." Quang chuckled, sitting beside her. "I just told a rich man no, and somehow it feels like the best decision I've ever made." His mother nodded knowingly. "You chose peace," she said. "That's something money can't buy." The simplicity of her words filled him with a quiet strength, a reminder that love and dignity were the true roots of happiness. Later that night, Quang stood by his window, watching the city lights blink in the distance. He thought about the long road ahead, the struggles, the late nights, the small paychecks. But he also thought about Linda's smile, his mother's laughter, and the strange calm that came with being true to himself. One day, he whispered to the dark sky, "I'll regain everything I lost, not through shortcuts, but through faith and hard work." The wind brushed against his face as if to seal that promise. Down below, Linda arrived quietly, her steps soft on the gravel path. When Quang turned, their eyes met, hers shimmering with relief, his filled with steady warmth. She ran into his arms, her voice trembling. "I was so afraid you'd regret it." He held her closer, whispering near her ear, "Never. I have everything I need right here." For a long moment, they stood in silence, wrapped in the comfort of each other's presence. The night was still, the world vast and uncertain. But as long as they had love, courage, and hope, Quang knew they could rebuild it all.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tưởng Linda Review. Vậy là trong tập phim hôm nay của chúng ta thì trong câu chuyện Quang đã từ chối vị CEO. Anh không chấp nhận đánh đổi tình cảm của anh với Linda để lấy con gái CEO, để đổi lấy sự nghiệp và tiền bạc. Bởi vì với anh chỉ cần mẹ và Linda luôn luôn ở bên cạnh anh, động viên anh. Với anh như thế là đủ, còn sự nghiệp anh sẽ từ từ gây dựng lại sau. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn và nội dung mới mẻ sẽ được kể ở câu chuyện xuất hiện trên video tiếp theo, sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tưởng Linda Review. Các bạn hãy bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Xin cảm ơn và hẹn gặp lại. Bye bye.